Welcome to Industry Insights with Route Consultant, your front row seat to the fast-moving world of logistics and beyond. Each week, we bring you game-changing insights, real-world strategies, and fresh perspectives to fuel smarter investments and build stronger businesses. Join us as we sit down with expert guests to explore emerging trends and pressing topics across a wide range of industries. This is Industry Insights. We have Dave and Amy Byers back in the studio, and we are talking about another exciting topic this time, one that is really, it can be a real challenge for people as they're trying to evaluate employees, and that's drug testing.
Yeah.
And this is not talking just drug testing that you want to do for fun. We're talking about a FedEx mandated drug testing. So first off, can you just talk about a little on when you ever see drug testing? And actually, let's go back even before that. Does FedEx require it of all drivers, P&D and line haul?
So FedEx doesn't require it, but it is in our ISPA and TSPA agreements. So yes, it is required to be a FedEx driver, but it's a contract requirement of independent service providers and transportation service providers on the P&D and line haul side. Yeah. So it's part of pre-employment testing. There were some fuzziness about over 10K, under 10K. That's coming back. Even APV, AVP, however you want to say it, those drivers are now tested also. So it is a employment requirement, and then you are then put in the pool of random testing through the FedEx network as well. And then there's all the other things that go along with testing and results and all the things that we'll kind of unpack today.
Yeah, so any employee is going to be put, like before they ever start working for you, they do have to drug test?
In a driving position, yeah. So non-drivers, like I'm not ever pulled. I'm a non-driver. Jumpers would not. We put them in a pool, a random pool as well for our company, just because I feel like they're in a safety-sensitive position, getting in and out of the trucks, handling the heavy boxes, making those decisions, just because they're not driving.
So you can elect for non-drivers to be a part of the random.
So it's part of your
pool?
Company policy. Yeah. So you can't, not through the random pool at FedEx, but you can in fact have your own policies and handbook. As it relates to drug testing, as a drug-free workplace. Okay.
And if a manager's not ever on the truck, not ever driving, I guess they're technically out of the pool, or so what's the actual certification?
All of our drivers are certified to drive. They also have to train, right? So they're all in the FedEx pool
so as
active drivers.
As long as you're certified to drive and are active.
Yeah, as long as you have an active, safety-sensitive function under the contract, you're considered personnel that are held to those contract standards.
So we'll talk about on the hiring side in just a second, but what is the random, we say it's random. What does that look like? Is it just, somebody could get pulled every week? Is it that, people randomly get pulled once a month? How often are we talking here?
Well, we operate under the DOT number, so we're kind of at the mercy of random selection. I think what was it, 50%? 50% of the drivers get selected.
A year or over the course of
I think it's per quarter.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
50% of all of the drivers in the FedEx pool?
Yes. Okay. But it's not 50% of the individuals. It's 50% of the number of drivers at that terminal. So I've had drivers that get pulled every quarter. Oh. And they're like, again? And they're like, I swear, Amy, I didn't do anything wrong. And I'm like, I know that, but they just happen to be in the pool. Dave, because Dave is a driving candidate for all of our different contracts, he gets pulled quite a bit, once for each terminal or contract or how that works. So I've never gotten pulled, but we do have people that have never gotten pulled. We've gotten people that get pulled once a quarter. We've gotten people that have been pulled 2 months in a row. And they're like, do I look sketchy? I'm like, no, you look fine. I don't know what it is. It's just random, I guess.
Just the nature of the job.
Yeah, I know it's random. Everybody always is like, it feels like it's targeted, but is it, as far as we know, it truly is random?
Yeah.
Okay. What does that process actually look like? Can you do it from anywhere? Because, you might not be at the terminal, you might be somewhere else. If they pull you, what does that process look like?
There's select approved vendors to go to.
Okay.
So depending on what you're pooled for, last quarter I was pooled for drug and alcohol.
Okay.
So I had to go to a new facility I've never been to because they issued the alcohol test as well. So I went, did a breathalyzer,
So the alcohol one is like actually testing, like it almost has to be like right now. Are you drunk?
Are you
Yes.
drunk?
got pulled?
Yes, have you-
Or recently.
Yeah,
Like, is
'cause
it,
how
it's-
recently would I don't even know how recently alcohol shows up, but it can't be too long. Yeah.
I mean, but that's a guy that might be,
I guess, yeah,
drinking all night, 2 o'clock in the morning. It's 8 a.m.
Still in their
I mean,
system.
it's still,
Yeah.
I think FAA is 8 hours.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, so I went did the alcohol test and then
Just a breathalyzer in the studio.
and then
Yeah.
did the drug test.
Yeah.
Okay.
But if it's just a drug test, we have another place that we usually get selected to go to. So they'll come up to us in the morning, say, "Hey, random, we need you to go. You have 2 hours from right now
Yeah.
to get it done."
And then
It
that
has to be
driver
done.
cannot leave.
Got it.
They have to be, we usually escort them. We have a manager take them, or they can go on their way en route.
And
But
how do you get told you're doing it? Is it an email or like do they grab you?
In
Like-
person.
Okay. So it
Yeah.
always has to be in person. And so they just have a list for that day. They come and grab people.
Yes.
And,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes they'll bring on-site nurses.
yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
and
We've
do
had that
on-site.
like in the
Like you're
terminal.
doing it right now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, it's a convenience thing too.
Yeah.
So you don't have to before you dispatch for your route. You don't have to
Okay. You just
go
do it
somewhere.
quickly. You don't miss out on the day.
It's also a
Yeah.
security measure too. They can't go get
Yeah.
samples or anything in their car or contraband, anything like that. So it's a little
Yeah.
bit more controlled environment.
And what happens if they refuse to take the test? Like
Fail.
they just automatically
fail.
It's a fail.
Okay.
Refuse.
'Cause have you all had anyone try that as
Oh, yeah.
like because it sounds like it's a way of being like I'm not subjecting myself to
Yeah.
this. But
Yes,
really,
so there's a couple different ways to fail as a refusal too. So you can, which we hear quite a bit, from the same group of people. They've gone to the testing site and they can't make a sample,
Yep.
which is a myth,
Yeah.
but just can't, right? And they're drinking water, still can't. If they leave and then come back, it's an automatic fail. So if they stay in the lobby in the controlled environment
Yep.
and continue to drink water and wait it out, they can still test.
Eventually they will
So if they
test, yeah.
even if they give a small sample, it's not enough to test. They can't leave. They'll
Yeah.
still let them produce another sample or an additional sample, but they cannot leave. So once you leave, it's a fail. If you refuse, it's a fail. If it's out of temperature, so I mean we get them where they're cold or like 112 degrees.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, you got a little bit more
You've got
going
some
on
other
than just
problem.
drug, right? For sure. So out of temp. We've had some test different sugar levels, males testing like for
Yeah.
female, whatever,
Yeah,
not the
it's
right
clearly
sample.
not theirs,
Clearly
yeah.
not. Or there's a test of like diluted
Yeah.
or any type of contraband. But I know the guys have tried Ajax, and there's all these,
So all
whatever's
kinds
on
of-
the internet
Yeah.
must be true.
probably seen
But those
every
are all
different way
those
that
are
they
all
can think of.
fails.
Yeah.
Those are all. There's no option. You will be,
Automatic
disqualified per the
Yeah.
contract. You'll be disqualified for a year at least, and then that's off
Yeah.
you go, and then you're done that day. So if you fail and it's reported, you can't even, for any of those reasons, you can't
Yeah.
even bring the truck back.
Okay.
So you have to go rescue a person on
Okay.
site.
Which is I'm sure that's a fun day where
Mm-hmm.
suddenly you find out that the guy you were waiting on you were trying to delay their day. Now
Mm-hmm.
they're not going to show up at all.
Well, we've had people give samples.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, just regular samples, nothing seems up. And then a week, 2 weeks, maybe even 3 weeks later, the results come and the terminal will call and say, hey, so-and-so reported positive, you got to get them off the road. And they're right at a pickup or where in the middle of, and then you have to make a game plan. They're like, well, can I just come back? I'm like, no,
Nah, you
you
have to
can
stop
no
right
longer,
now.
like from this moment, you can no longer produce
Yeah.
service safety function for us.
Is there any kind of appeal process? I don't see how there would be. But
So they can appeal to the MRO.
Yeah.
Typically, we do get positives. If people are on certain medications,
Yeah.
it'll flag. But that 800 number, which no one answers, right? The MRO is calling to say, do you have any of these drugs in your system? Or, if it's a prescription that's popping or something flagged. So they're giving you an opportunity to answer the question.
Yeah.
Even if you said, yes, I'm on this, this, and this, by the time it gets to the MRO, which is the medical review office, for FedEx or for First Advantage, those then will flag. So you can answer the question. So if it comes up, usually what happens is skip that phone call.
Yeah.
It comes up positive, they're deadlined, and then they say, oh, no, I'm on XYZ medications. Can you get me in touch? I'm like, yes, here's the, so then they have to call consumer advocacy with their, drug test number, and they can call and say, hey, I'm on this. They verify it, and within 24, 48 hours, they're back in the game. The ones that are truly positive for illicit, or illegal drugs is the issue.
Yeah. Yeah, and
there's no appeal for that.
Yeah.
You've used drugs.
Yeah, and we'll come back to what happens if they fail. But let's go back to a little bit on the prevention side. So first off, it comes down to how you recruit. So how do you kind of educate drivers on what this policy is and what's expected of them, like from day one?
So a lot of people in Ohio know, right? Because Ohio is a legal state now.
Yep.
So they're, and there are some other shippers that allow drug use at a certain level based on, under 10K or what have you. So they're coming from those types of previous employment. So you can ask the questions. We ask the 5 basics. Are you 21? Can you pass a drug test? Can you pass a DOT physical? Can you, all the things. And if you're all these things, then we can move to the next stage. It's amazing how many people we say, do you do drugs, including weed? And they're still like, no, no, I don't. And they're like, oh, well, I did a month ago with a friend and I haven't, or, I've actually had people call and say, well, I used to work for this shipper and they allowed it. So it wasn't anything, but I want to really work for you. What does that look like? I'm like, you need to be clean.
Okay.
And they will change. They'll make a life change for a career opportunity, but it's, I prefer honesty over, sending them for the DOT physical and the drug screen, and then it's like negative or positive, or negative dilute, whatever that looks like. So those are some options that you can.
Yeah, and I imagine in a state in particular where weed's legal is even harder to just make sure they understand it on the front end, because I'm sure you get a lot of applications that automatically are ruled out just because of that.
Yeah, we get medical. I have a medical card. It still doesn't matter.
Right.
Federally regulated, it's 0.
Yeah.
So just for clarity, right, we're federally regulated, not at the state level. So so there's a difference. It can be legal state level, but federal, not okay.
Yeah.
And I'm sure that's. Do you actually put it on the job description? And still, I'm sure people don't read it.
Yeah, I mean, we put it on the job description, and then it's the first line of questioning for the screening process, and then we have phone screens, and we reiterate and again, can you XYZ, and they still, we still get some that I'm like, really? The 3 times asking wasn't clear enough, and then you have some that will pass, and then. If they take a random, then they don't pass, or you smell it on them, and then there's that line of questioning down. How do you handle that when you need the boxes to go out? And you can't look the other way, and it's really, it's like, but I'm not high now. I'm like, you got to go. So it's hard to find those people, right? And then, or you get a good candidate, and you're like, yes, this one's,
they're great at
this
everything
one's great,
else.
super good dude, everything's great, or this lady's awesome, and she's like, yeah, I can pass, and then you get that notice. I'm like, really? And then I call and I say, here's consumer advocacy. You can call First Advantage. You can talk to MRO. And they're like, oh no, it's weed. Well,
it's like, I know, I remember doing it.
Yeah. There goes 2 days of my time. Thanks so much for the help. But there is, there's that medication list. It also happens when people are injured or are, if they're even a personal injury or a surgery, really staying in tune with what those drugs look like that they've been prescribed, and have the physician say, they can come back when they're off of this med or when the prescription is destroyed or whatever that looks like. Because it's just, I had a bad back, my back hurt last night, so I took 2. Well, the real implications I think that Dave and I talk about are, if there is a driver that has anything in their system that could be flagged or marked illicit or not on the okay to drive list, that could be your contract, right? And you have a lot of people working for you that you're responsible for. So to make sure that it is very clearly marked, that we talk about it in safety meetings. We also, mention it to people that take vacation. And I'm like, hey, yes, anything fun happen while you were on vacation that we should know about? And that's the difference between use and misuse. Maybe they're going somewhere where it's legal. But it's 0 tolerance for the job that you've selected. So crack a beer, enjoy yourself, come back to work.
Had any situation where, somebody did go like on vacation or they were out and they did some kind of drug that they know they would fail and they told you in advance, and it's something where you kept them off the job for a period of time, or you usually find that it's people don't tell you until
They won't tell us.
Yeah.
No, but we do put it out there. We do say like, hey, just let us know. Like, it's really important that if
Yeah.
something happened, or if I see something on, people with their social media, they love to share.
Yeah.
I'm like, is there something I need to know about? They're like, no. And I'm like, okay. And we've even had conversations where, if it's a suspicion situation, that we'll have them go test.
Yeah, well, let's talk about it. If it's a situation where you find out, like, let's say an employee came and told you that they had smoked weed the night before, what is your responsibility or liability if they are to go out that day?
So
They can't go out that day.
No, so that's admitted.
Okay.
So that's just like a fail.
Yep.
And they can resign before they get tested. But if you told me like, hey, I'm here at work and I smoked weed a couple weeks ago, we would have to get you tested. That's admitted drug use. So they would be terminated.
And if let's say you didn't, you still let them go out on the road. What in that scenario, that they did, but they haven't been tested, what kind of liability do you have down the line? If, let's say, a week later they got tested and failed for something else, but it was like,
and they came back and said like, I told her that I did, and she, they said it was fine.
Yeah.
Your contract would be at
The
risk.
contract says any knowledge of, there's little fine lines,
Yeah,
right?
any suspicion or anything. So
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think that's just as important to emphasize
Yeah.
is like, if there's any chance that or think so if it's a suspicion, you can basically elect for somebody to go get drug tested?
Yeah, so suspicion is funny and it's different in every state. So I always say, make sure you check with your local states and your labor laws and things like that. Ours says 2 indications. So that could be smell and behavior. Mm-hmm. It could be 2 different people that smell. So it could be reported by a jumper or a manager, and then a senior manager goes over and is like, yep, me too. Behavior, they admitted it to the guy next door. I came over. He seems a little bit off, but it has to be 2 or more kind of triggers, if you will. And you can make those happen, right? I mean, you're not trying to set somebody up, but if I smell it and I'm doing my due diligence by saying like, hey, this guy smells like weed, then another manager can go over and say, all right, we do. Now, in those situations, you need to drive the candidate to the drug testing facility because you're now telling them, I suspect that you are high, so I can't let you drive your own car.
Yeah.
And then you can do, we in our handbook, we do a rapid, which is kind of that immediate positive, negative, and then they'll send it out. So then if it's positive, we do a suspension until the final results come in. But then we have to find a way for that candidate to get home or that driver to get home, right?
Yeah.
Because now you've said you're high, you're testing positive for drugs, and now I have to get you home because you're not allowed to perform safety sensitive functions for us.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Yeah.
Right? So now our managers are driving them home or figuring out how to get their car home. 2 managers, one takes the personal car, drives them to their house. So that's the
Yeah. And is this what happens if they fail any drug test, like not just a suspicion one? Is it the same kind of process you go through if they fail a normal random drug test?
So if they fail a drug test, it's typically, like I said, there's times where the results come 2 to 3 weeks later.
Yeah.
So the ones through FedEx we don't get the rapid results. That's just like a test because they assume you're not high.
Yeah.
So a suspicion one is I'm
assuming you are.
I'm assuming you are high right now as we're talking. So I think those are a little bit more process related, kind of more like a new hire or a pre-employment. Like we'll get the results and then we'll figure it out along the way. But it's the safety sensitive ones where you're like, I feel like you smell like a duck, you look like a duck, right?
Same with alcohol.
Right,
Right.
Same thing.
If someone comes to work and you smell alcohol, you have to drive them to the testing site.
Yeah.
Is it? Yeah. So it's the same type of outcome scenario if it was a drug test or if you took them to get a breathalyzer or something like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And we've had that. We've had guys show up to work and you're like, and somebody's like, he
tell.
smells like
Yeah.
booze. Like that's tough. And I'm like, well, I don't think it's safe. So we have the conversation. Most people, when you tell them what you think, they're going to admit it.
Yeah.
We've had more. I think we've only had, in a suspicion case, we've only had one person actually go get the full test done, and it was a rapid fail. But we've never, I think the majority of them outside of that one candidate, I mean, just here even recently it happened, most of them are like, yeah, you caught me.
Yeah.
And then you get frustrated and you get, you feel let down because you had this relationship and you're like, seriously, you're such a good driver, you're such a good dude. And I get it, but this is what we do.
Yeah.
So it's a hard conversation to have, especially with somebody that you really, trust and care about. And but Ohio says it's legal, so it's legal.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's a lot of education. We did a sign off when the state law changed just to say like, hey, you got this policy, right? You know that this is not, it's legal, but we did a campaign.
But you can't work here if you do it.
We did a campaign and said it's legal, but not for you.
Yeah.
So we actually did a full education, kind of put like a little bit of a fun twist on it so that they would, not fun, because it's not a fun topic, but light.
Light, right.
So that they could, because it's a hard topic to talk to people about, especially when their families are home doing it. Like, what am I supposed to do? Lock myself in the bedroom? I'm like, have an honest conversation with them that this is your career.
Yeah, or all of their friends. Like it could be as soon as that something like a law like that changes, everybody wants to do it, and it's great, and everybody's having a good time. But you have to be the one who's not. But
and
that's how it goes.
And we talked to them quite a bit. We used the example of if you're at a Super Bowl party this year, and it used to have beer and alcohol, and it was just don't drive home. Now it's taken to a different level because it is legal in the home, right? So if you're at a Super Bowl party or a birthday party and everybody's, just hanging around, it's legal, not for you.
Not for you. Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah, that's smart.
Yeah.
Now, are those drivers, if you fail a test, are they can you hire them back after any amount of time? What's the process like there?
Well, there's a process you can do.
Okay.
It's called the SAP.
Okay.
Amy knows a little more about
the
intents of
it's FedEx in our contract says that a person that is either tested or has been reported tested. So from a verification of employment, when they come over and it says, have you ever, failed? Have you ever refused? Any of those, that would be considered a fail or an infraction. Any type of DUI, OVI, or possession would be a drug and alcohol related infraction.
Okay.
So anything like that. So, and a failed drug test, right, at FedEx, whether it's suspicion or reported by us. So those are 3 ways that you can get kind of one score on your record. FedEx says in our contract that you have to be off duty, so out of the system, disqualified for 1 year. So not performing a safety-sensitive function for 1 year. And then also it has to be 1 year since the conviction or the report. Okay, so those 2 things have to happen together, and sometimes they don't. Sometimes you get kicked out, you get an OVI, you try to fight it, and then the actual conviction is not the day that you got pulled over. It's the day that you got charged.
Yeah. So
the conviction date, so it's 1 year from the conviction date, but there is a process, and I have to say that our customer, the FedEx network, does allow it. And a lot of trucking companies do not allow it. It's kind of zero tolerance. But FedEx says in the contract it can be 1 year, and you have to go through this SAP program, which is a substance abuse program. Basically go to a counselor that's specific in the drug and alcohol rehab type situation. They have to be certified to do the SAP program, so they have to know all the DOT rules and everything. Basically go there. They have a little interview, and they, based on the interview, assess, are you active and do you need treatment plan, or were you a dumb kid and this was 5 years ago, you made a mistake, you're with your buddies, was it just open container versus, or possession or physical control versus like actively driving or actively high while you were driving, whatever that looks like. So that SAP provider will establish a plan for that candidate or for your driver, and they have to go through the plan. It's usually about $600 to just get the SAP program going, and then sometimes the treatment plan requires some other costs, right? Okay. Whether it's a weekend DIP program, which is that like hotel jail where they put you in and you have to learn for a weekend, or whether it's counseling or treatment or AA meetings or NA meetings or whatever that looks like. Once you're completed in that SAP provider will give you a certificate that says that we feel that you're completed, and you can actually put that person back through the First Advantage program, and then you email sap@fedex.com and get the whole process going. Now, then comes more drug testing. So we have a candidate that years and years ago tested, and now he's in every month. He has to go to the terminal, report to the terminal. They give him a chain of custody. He has to go get the negative drug screen and alcohol and then come back.
Oh, wow.
But that's once a month. But he's, for him, he's like, this is the only company that really allows us to kind of that grace and that forgiveness.
Yeah.
So he's like, I'm all in.
Yeah.
If this,
every month is that's what it takes.
yeah. So he goes for 12 drug screens. He finished his program, and he's working towards getting out of the program, but learned his lesson and talks to people about it and the risks. And he's a great guy, really great employee. But without that program, we would not have been able to hire him. So it's definitely a second chance.
And was he from somebody, like he had that?
He had it, yeah. So he was a line haul driver. So that's reported to the FMCSA when you're in line haul. So that one follows him, right? But the SAP then goes on the record, so you can see that as well.
Okay.
It just takes a little bit longer. So there is forgiveness. The contract does say 2 and you're out, though.
Okay.
So whether that's reported, again, those kind of 3 categories of positive testing, that's contract says it's a lifetime DQ. So
and just to
kind
be
of a
clear,
learn your lesson
a
type of thing.
DUI, a drug test, fail, same.
Yep.
They're equivalent.
Drug or alcohol related
There's not
infraction.
anything better or worse there in terms of two of in terms of reality and morality potentially.
Yeah.
But,
and to be fair, open container.
And even open container,
if you were just at a, I think about, people going to a bar and enjoying themselves, and they take the bottle with them, and there it is.
Yep.
And it's not a big deal, but it hits you, or you're a passenger in a car, you're hanging out and having all the fun with road pops, and I wasn't drinking and the driver wasn't drinking, but we had open container and everybody got charged for it.
Or
possession. We have that quite a bit. It wasn't my car.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now,
sure.
When you have you ever had a driver that's had one of these infractions and you decided to actually push them through this SAP program and like you stuck with them? Do you find that they're interested in doing that all the time, or what's that conversation and thought process?
It's pretty
look like?
Costly.
Yeah.
We've gotten burned. So we split it with somebody once, and they were great, went through the program, $300, and they came back and gave them that kind of treatment plan, if you will, and they were like, this is ridiculous, I'm not doing this, you're done, and quit right there on the moment. So he paid the $300, we were out $300. It was going to be a good idea, but we were very upfront with them and told them, like, hey, this is what this is going to look like. You could have to go to meetings. You could have to talk to a counselor. It could get a little mushy and sticky and ugly for you, and if you're willing, but when you come out of it, you're going to have a second chance at a career. Unfortunately, on the P&D side, it's less, obviously. They're less like, I can just get a job anywhere.
Yeah.
Versus line haul, it's their livelihood. It's on their driver's license. So they're much more, amenable to go through kind of that lengthier process.
That makes sense. Yeah, because with line haul, that's
it's your livelihood.
It's FMCSA, so it doesn't matter. It's like if they try to do that anywhere else, it's going to still show up.
Correct. Yeah, there's no getting out of it. Especially with the verification of employment and things like that, and all the questions asked. I mean, they're very detailed. Have they ever failed? Have they ever refused? Have they ever, alcohol and drug? So it's one or the other, anything. And again, like I said, that could be reported. So it could be not cited, right? Nothing illegal as far as like misdemeanor or MVR, but it could have just been like, the guy refused to take a drug test, and that's an infraction.
Yeah.
That's your number one. And then if something happens again, that's 2, and it's a lifetime. So it doesn't matter if you went through the SAP or not.
Yeah. And after those 2, there's no remediation plan or anything like that?
No, it's lifetime DQ.
Yeah. So it's
there's no, I think at that point we kind of should have learned our lesson.
Yeah.
I get people are young though. I mean,
yeah.
And you look at something on your record and we go back, 10 years on some things, so
it's tough, but at the end of the day, these are professional drivers. That is what their job entails.
My name is on the side of that truck.
Exactly.
Slicker Trucking, what he's built and what we've built, and all the families that rely on us mandate, right? Demand that we make these good decisions for our business. The name on the truck, and it's easy when you're down a truck and you're like, oh, can't you just finish out the week, right?
Yeah.
We'll handle it later. Can we look the other?
Yeah.
Can we look the other way? And you just can't. It's just too important.
Yeah.
So I think that's kind of the gloom and doom side of it.
Yeah.
But it really is, you have to put your people first. And sometimes, we actually got rid of a employee. He resigned before he admitted. So he resigned and he's like, I'm out of here. I'm not going to test. So he technically didn't refuse to test because he quit first.
Before, yeah.
Very creative. But there were a couple drivers that were really mad at me. For doing that. And I'm like, that is like, you have children.
Yeah.
That is your job. I'm protecting you. You shouldn't be mad at me. You should be mad at him.
Yeah.
Right? Like he did this to you. You could have lost your job. We could have lost the contract if something terrible would have happened and found out that he was using drugs, actively using drugs.
When you're protecting all their jobs, you're protecting your company. You're also protecting everybody else on the road. At the end of the day, like we can't have unsafe professional drivers out there. And that's unfortunately the way it is.
And this is the job that you selected.
And this is the job you decided to take.
Yes. And you knew that it was, from pre-employment to randoms and everything in between. I think that particular candidate was like, your supervisor's a narc. I'm like, no, that's what he's actually paid to tell us these things.
It's part of his job.
Yes, he's actually to protect everyone. Yes, we appreciate it. But it is. There's a lot of nuances and a lot of relationships, right? Personal relationships and hey man, I'm not going to tell but it really is. It's a hard topic.
It is.
And what seems like it should be the easiest topic is
it seems as simple as like, oh, don't do drugs. If it was that simple, that would be a resolved issue in the world.
Don't do drugs. But and it's really no different. We can, even though use, right? So the difference between use and misuse, it doesn't matter with drugs. With alcohol, obviously, don't come to work drunk.
Yep.
But you can drink. Yep. So there's always that like, well, I don't drink. I smoke weed. I'm like, well, I'm sure some
even in the case of drinking, you can't. If you have a CDL, your tolerance is.
It's 0.04 versus 0.08.
Mm-hmm. A lot of the drivers, they don't even realize that.
Yeah, I know plenty of AOs that are like, I'm not going to get my CDL because
right.
I know the tolerance change.
Yeah. And Dave and I, we have, Dave, obviously the AO.
Yeah.
I'm not in a safety function, but I'm setting the example for our company and how we lead. And then both of our older boys, our 24-year-old twins, are active drivers. Mm-hmm. So that alone, when we go to an Indians game, it's Uber or car service or something. Everyone's like, well, that's expensive. I'm like, oh, no, it's not.
Yeah.
Like, no, it is not expensive.
What's the alternative?
Yes, what's expensive is the alternative. Yeah. And that whole, setting example, leading by example and making those good choices. So if you're going to drink, just be smart. If you're going to do drugs, you got to find another career.
Yeah.
And that's just unfortunately, that's just the way it is right now.
Rules may change at some time, but those are the rules we're in for now.
Until they can test and kind of refine that process. It just is what it is. And that's a hard conversation when it's legal.
Yeah.
And
it's hard, but if you have it on the front end, that you've done your due diligence of saying, this is the job.
Yeah.
If you say yes, you're signing up for everything that comes with it.
Yeah. And I get a lot of candidates off Indeed or some of the others that are like, hey, do you guys test for marijuana? And I'm like, yes, we do. And they're like, oh, okay, thanks. And I'm like, still not interested? Or they'll say, okay, cool. I was just asking. And I'm like, And I'm like, okay. I'm like, what does this look like? I'm like, are we going to pass the test? And can we pass a random after that?
Yeah.
Because passing the test,
like
people have figured things out.
First one.
Some people can figure it out. I don't know all the tricks and trades.
Search, so they're like, I can wait for
I can wait for a few weeks, and then they get comfortable and things change. But we try to hold that culture as a drug-free workplace and hold everybody up to it. I don't know.
No, I mean, I think it's a process that in this industry, whether it's FedEx or any trucking industry, like this is a reality you deal with every day, and it's important to understand how it works, how to protect yourself and your drivers and your company, and also if there are pathways, both appeals and remediations to a certain extent, but.
Yeah.
This is a path of an employee decides to take. They may ultimately lose their job and their permanent eligibility in the space. And that's just the reality of the situation. But I think it's something that AOs, drivers, everybody needs to understand about what this is.
Yep. Communication, establishing a plan for your entire company, like a policy and a position of what our stance is, I think is huge because then other drivers can hold each other accountable. And it's definitely a see something, say something kind of environment, which is hard when you're buddies, and you're like, hey, dude, you're going to lose your job. But better you than me, right? Like that's the difference. Like we can all lose our jobs, or you can lose your job.
Or you and everyone, or just you.
Correct.
So sorry. Yeah.
Correct. So those are the tough ones that we deal with quite a bit.
Yeah.
But the SAP program's great. We've done it. If anybody has any questions, those are the ones that we would share and have that process kind of nailed down. But we've had a couple that have been rejected second time, or not enough time from conviction. Like, all right, we got to wait till October.
Yeah, wait a few months. Yeah.
Had some success stories too.
Yeah, and that's great. I mean, I think at the end of the day, you want to give people a second chance, but this is ultimately a pretty regulated industry when it comes to those types of things, and so it's great for the success stories. And some people, it's just that's not the story.
This one in the contract is pretty clear.
Yeah.
There's very little gray.
Perfect. Well, I think that's it for drug testing. So I appreciate you guys walking through kind of the process, the pros, the cons, and what it can look like on the back end. So thanks, guys.
You got it.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah.